Step outside. It's 20,000 years ago, and the world is dying of cold. This is the last glacial maximum, the deepest point of the last ice age. Walls of ice over a mile high crush the north of the planet. Where you're standing, the summer is short and mean. The winter runs for 8 brutal months, and the wind pours off the glaciers like a blade. By every rule of biology, you should not be here. You have no fur, no claws, no thick layer of blubber. You are a tropical ape, a creature built for the African sun, somehow standing in a frozen wasteland that could kill you in a single unprotected night. And here's the staggering part. Your ancestors didn't just barely survive the ice age, they walked straight into it, spread all the way across it, and came out the other side as the undisputed masters of the planet. They did it with no gene for cold, no built-in coat, nothing. They did it by inventing their way through. 3 inventions, really. A second skin, a giant on the menu, and each other. So how does a naked tropical ape conquer the freezer? Let's get into it. The first thing that saved you wasn't in your body. It was wrapped around it. Clothing. We treat clothes as fashion, but in the Ice Age, clothing was survival technology as important as fire. And we can actually date the moment we invented it, using the most disgusting clock imaginable, lice. Here's the trick. Body lice, the kind that live in clothing, could only evolve once there was clothing for them to live in. So when geneticists Melissa Toops and David Reed studied louse DNA in 2011, they could pin down when clothing lice split off from head lice, somewhere between 83,000 and 170,000 years ago, which means humans were wearing something tens of thousands of years before they ever walked into the cold. Your oldest fashion statement is, technically, a parasite. You're welcome. But draping a hide over your shoulders is not enough to beat a glacier. For that, you need tailoring. Clothes cut and sewn to fit, sealing in warm air. And that takes a tool, the eyed needle. In Denisova Cave in Siberia, archaeologists found a sewing needle made of bird bone, about 3 inches long, with a tiny eye drilled clean through it, roughly 50,000 years old, and quite possibly made not by us, but by the Denisovans. With a needle like that, you can stitch fitted parkas, trousers, and boots from animal skins. And here's a chilling theory. This might be one reason we outlasted the Neanderthals. The Neanderthals were tough, cold-adapted, and had simpler clothing, more cape than coat. We had needles, we had fitted, layered gear. In a world this cold, the species with better tailoring wins. So the next time you complain about sewing on a button, remember, that exact skill is part of why your ancestors didn't freeze to death 40,000 years ago. Okay? You're dressed. Now you have to eat, and almost nothing grows in a frozen winter. So what's on the menu? Giants. The Ice Age North wasn't an empty white desert. It was a vast grassy plain called the Mammoth Steppe. And it was crawling with enormous animals. Woolly mammoths, woolly rhinos, giant deer, bison, and herds of reindeer and horses. This was a land of meat on legs. If you were brave and clever enough to take it down, and we were. Working in teams, ancient hunters used the spear thrower, the atlatl, basically a lever that turns your arm into a catapult, launching a dart hard enough to drop a huge animal from a safe distance. A mammoth wasn't just dinner, it was a whole hardware store. The meat and fat fed you, the hide became clothing and tents, and the bones became your house. At a site called Mazhirik in Ukraine, archaeologists found huts built entirely out of mammoth bones, tusks arched into doorways, skulls and jaws stacked into walls. One settlement used the bones of roughly 149 mammoths, and people lived in those bone houses for centuries. Think about that. When the wood ran out in a treeless, frozen world, they built homes out of the animals themselves, and fat was everything. In the cold, fat is fuel, the most calorie-dense food there is, and they burned it too in carved stone lamps that lit up dark caves like the ones at Lascaux. They even had a freezer. Dig a pit into the permafrost, drop in your mammoth meat, and the frozen ground keeps it for months. The Ice Age larder ran on cold. Far from starving, a skilled group on the Mammoth Steppe could be richer in meat and fat than people who came long after them. But the single most powerful survival tool wasn't a needle or a spear. It was other people. Cold is a problem you solve together. Fire had to be kept alive through the long night, every night. And keeping a fire going for 8 straight months takes a group taking turns, sharing fuel, never letting it die. One person alone in that cold is a corpse by spring. A tight, cooperative band, sharing food, body heat, and the fire, lives. Now you might be thinking surviving the Ice Age was just brute strength, the toughest cavemen muscling through, but the truth is the opposite. The Neanderthals were physically built for cold, short, stocky, powerful bodies that held heat better than ours, and they're gone. We, the skinnier, weaker, tropical newcomer, are the ones who made it, precisely because we were better at planning, sharing, and inventing as a group. In the Ice Age, cleverness and cooperation beat raw muscle, and we picked up one more partner in the cold, one that's probably lying at your feet right now. The dog. The oldest dog we can prove was a friend, not food, was found at Bonn-Oberkassel in Germany, buried beside two humans around 14,000 years ago. And here's the tender part. That dog had survived a deadly bout of distemper as a puppy, which it could only have done if people nursed it through, with no benefit to themselves. In the coldest, hardest world imaginable, humans still found the heart to care for a sick puppy. That partnership, sharper senses and warmth from the dog, food and shelter from us, helped both species survive. Your ancestors didn't just out-tough the Ice Age, they out-thought it, out-shared it, and faced it with the fire, the group, and the first good boy in history. So step back and look at what really happened. A naked, clawless, furless tropical ape walked into the deadliest climate our species has ever faced, and walked back out as the master of the earth. Not by growing a coat, not by waiting 1,000,000 years to evolve one, but by inventing a second skin, turning giants into food and shelter, and binding together into groups smart enough to outlast the cold. And here's the twist that matters most. The Ice Age didn't just test us, it forged us. The tailoring, the planning across seasons, the food storage, the teamwork, the bond with the dog, that entire toolkit was sharpened in the freezer, and then we carried it out and used it to conquer every other corner of the planet. The same ancestors who survived the glaciers are the ones who crossed into entirely new continents. So the next time you zip up a warm coat, flick on a heater, and step out into a winter that barely registers, take 1 second. That coat is a 100,000-year-old invention. That comfort was paid for in full by people who beat the Ice Age with bone needles and burning fat in each other. You are the descendant of the apes who refused to freeze. This is Sketchient. Subscribe and stay curious about where we came from.